Shalom, and welcome back to Bnei Noach Academy, Thoughts on the Torah. Please remember to hit the like button, to subscribe, and most importantly, to share this insight and inspiration with friends and family. So when you look at the book of Exodus, chapter 22, verse 30, it says, Ve'anshe kodesh tiyun li, and you should be a holy people to me. Now this is speaking directly to the Jewish people, and therefore it continues with laws of kashrut, of kosher foods. Kosher actually translates literally to mean fit, food which is fit for consumption for a Jewish person. Ubasar basadeh trefa lo tochelu, and meat that was devoured by an animal in the field, you should not eat. This is a euphemism for any flesh of an animal, of any kosher animal, that was either actually attacked or figuratively attacked. What happens when an animal attacks an animal? It punctures its inner organs, right? By sticking its claws into it. That's how they subdue their prey, and that's how the other animal dies. Well, according to the Torah, if there are any damages, any imperfections to the vital inner organs, then even though that animal is potentially a kosher animal, for example, it's a cow or a sheep or a goat, or it has been slaughtered in the ritual manner, proper ritual manner that it needs to be slaughtered in, yet if you open the animal, once you inspect the innards and you find that it's not kosher, that it has some severe either punctures or damages, then that animal is unfit for consumption. And I want to focus on the end of this verse. What does the verse say to do with this meat? Lakelev tashlichun oto. You should throw it to the dog. What is this all about? What is this about throwing it to the dog? Really, this is also somewhat of a euphemism of saying, look, you cannot consume it, but you can definitely derive benefit from it. In other words, the Torah is telling us is that there are certain things that when the Torah forbids us from consuming them, not only does it forbid us from consuming them, it also forbids us from having deriving any whatsoever benefit from that thing. For example, if something is attached to, associated with idolatry, well, since it's an idol, even in the most remote manner, you're not allowed to derive any benefit, any pleasure from it. However, here the Torah is saying it, you can't consume it, but you can definitely throw it to the animal, so to speak, give it to someone who is not commanded, not directed to eat only kosher. An animal doesn't have to eat kosher. It's not a human being in the first place, and certainly not Jewish. And therefore, you can give it to the animal. You can derive benefit that way. So if you have your own dog, you can give it to the dog. But the sages in the Talmud tell us something wonderful and amazing that we learn here. Why the dog? Why couldn't you just say, give it to your animal? What is the Torah telling us with this by saying, throw it to the dog? Well, back when the people, that is the Jewish people, left Egypt, remember, there was a sudden movement. Thousands, hundreds of thousands, actually several million people in one shot picked up and left the country. You can imagine what kind of movement that made, what kind of commotion that stirred up. Typically, when there's any little movement, I can tell you myself, I've experienced this many times when going to visit people. As soon as I get close to the door, I didn't even ring the bell yet, and I can hear the dog inside the house barking. It senses. They have a certain sense. They have a God-given talent to look out for their masters. And any whatsoever movement that is not normal to them immediately arouses their suspicion, and therefore they start barking. But what happened, as the Torah tells us, when the Jews left Egypt, it says, Bnei Yisrael, that to all the Jewish people, not one dog, imagine not one dog in the whole of Egypt, actually grinded his teeth even, let alone bark at them. And here's where we learn a wonderful lesson. God says, when you're going to have this non-kosher meat, if you do have this non-kosher meat, dogs are carnivores. Throw it to the dog. Why to the dog? Why did he use this as an example? because God is telling us, always be grateful. Show your appreciation. Even, so to speak, God himself, who really is the actual entity that needs to get the thank you, that deserves the accolades for the fact that the dogs didn't bark. The fact that the dog didn't bark was actually a miracle. I mean, it's just not something natural. It's not normal. But yet, this miracle was implemented, was facilitated through the dogs. In other words, they're the ones who actually did not bark, even though it was by means of miracle that possessed them, if I may, and overwhelmed their natural instincts and didn't allow them to bark. But the fact is, they didn't bark. They deserve a thank you for that. And here the Torah says, we're going to give it back to them. How much more so a fellow human being who has feelings, who has the ability to make a choice, to decide to help you, to decide not to help you. And perhaps sometimes it may be even warranted when they decide not to help you. It may be justified in the circumstance, in the moment. And yet they go above and beyond and decide to take either from their time, from their energy, from their money, from their well-being to do something for you. Be thankful. Be grateful. Show it. Express it. And that's what the Torah is teaching us. Throw it to the dog. Say thank you.